This week on Rockstar Superhero. Matt Flood and Chris McIntosh are two of the 5 members of Caskets, a musical force of nature from Leeds in the UK. I had the opportunity to connect with these kind guys as they are starting their promotional rollout for their major label debut on Sharp Tone Records. The new record, Lost Souls, drops on August 13th, and I admit I'm pretty excited about it. The guys were super cool, put up with all of my fanboy action, and gave you, the listener, great insight into who they are, their writing process, and what it feels like when the record business comes crashing around them, both the good parts and the not so good parts. If I wasn't clear before, I'm definitely digging these guys. They take the best parts of their influences and filter it through a modern technology, along with impeccably prepared arrangements, and they create lush soundscapes pierced by amazing vocals of the highest caliber. This is Caskets, complete and fully formed, ready to take on the world. I promise you'll enjoy listening to this interview as much as I did making it. This is my conversational flow with Matt Flood and Chris McIntosh from Caskets, the post-hardcore promise of the future on the Rockstar Superhero Podcast.
I have to praise you guys a bit. I don't want everyone on the show. I have a really nice audience, a big audio following. A lot of people are going to be hearing this, and I pursued you for a reason. I follow a lot of the bands on your label, but one thing led to another, and of course, a little bit about your story we'll get to in a moment. I went and listened to your music, and that's all I needed, right? I needed that thing that touched me. And we don't know much about you in the States yet, or at least I should say people maybe my age. I don't know what it is, but I love what you guys do. Matt, your voice is impeccable.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a legendary tenor. Chris, you clearly have massive skills in being a drummer. It really, really means a lot to me to have a guy that can hold down the fort. Oh
no, I'm the bassist. It's all gone wrong.
Well, it kind of is, right? Yeah. I think I listen to a lot of progressive rock, for example, and what I'm always looking at is the foundation. It really matters because Matt gets to jump out front and and be the sort of superhero everybody's looking at, right? Where guys like us, we have to service the song. We don't get to be the cool guys.
He's usually stood in front of me, standing on my toes as well, aren't you, lad?
Yeah, I love it.
The stage is mine. It's all mine.
What was that, Chris?
I'm the barrier between him and the drum kit. Make sure you don't fall onto it. I took many a cymbal in the side for Matt.
Yeah, that is true.
Well. You guys really, really, you stand out from the crowd. There's something very, very special about you. And there's a lot more to you than just, what's been happening in the press, good and bad, right? Just life. But the beauty of you guys, and I really wanted to make this statement right up front, is there's nothing derivative about you. And that's a big deal. It's fantastic to me, like fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's a big compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so if we can just jump kind of into what I like to do is I don't know if you've watched any of the shows or listened to any of the stuff I've done, but I like to talk about the origin story, right? I'm all about kind of how a superhero is formed, right? You've probably heard me say, Spider-Man, he gets bit by the spider and he becomes Spider-Man, and that's his thing. And when it comes to musicians and artists and anybody creative, there's this moment in our life that says we have to do this. And I'm curious, if you don't mind, one of you picking to go first, tell me a little bit about your origin story and then maybe how you guys interconnected, because I think that's a good starter kit for, the new audience and the people that don't know much about you yet.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to go first? Or me to go?
You go.
I thought so. So I'm a little bit older than Matt, and I'm originally from somewhere called Halifax. And now I live in Leeds, so like one of the major cities in the UK.
Right.
And both those places had like a really good music scene when I was younger. Like a lot of the time, I would spend going to gigs, and I wouldn't know who the bands were. Local bands, like the local pub or club. Couple of quid to get in. And it was more about the experience, the vibe of all your friends. You knew all your friends were going to be there. It was kind of, I don't want to say pre-internet. It was sort of like MySpace days.
Okay.
We weren't as connected as we are now, with, mobiles and all that sort of stuff. It'd be like, if I go to the gig tonight at the place, all my friends are going to be there. And then obviously everybody, if you can play an instrument or not, everybody's looked at someone on stage and been like, wow, I'd love to be on that side of the room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get to go into the venue early, and they're hanging out, and they've turned up in like a wacky tour van and all that sort of stuff. So it was always a cool thing for me. Like I've always been into music, and then I've always wanted to be part of the music scene ever since I was younger. So that's when I asked my parents, could I get a guitar for Christmas or something like that, and have some lessons. And that's kind of where it all started for me. And I think everybody'd be lying if they said they didn't spend hours on end as a younger like person pretending that they're in a band. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You learn a couple of chords, you learn some Blink-182 songs, and then you turn it up really loud in your bedroom, and that's the dream, innit? And to be honest, we've sort of just been building on that from when we were younger. I imagine Matt's probably got a similar sort of vibe story to start. How did you get into like bands and music and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So my story, I got into music a bit later, I guess. Like I didn't really start getting into music until I was about 13, 14. I'd always sung. Like I've always sang since I was about 5 or 6, but I'd never sang in front of anyone or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was always like into sports and stuff when I was young. Till I was about 13, 14, I ended up picking up a guitar. And I was just absolutely hooked straight away. I used to do the same. Like I used to buy an album that I really loved, and I'd lock myself away for like 2 weeks straight, just learning how to play like every song on the guitar. But I mainly started with acoustic music. So I did that really all the way up until I was about like 19, 20. And then when I got to college, I got into like my first band, and it was like a proper Blink-182, like pop punk rock sort of band.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously that fizzled out, and then there was never really a big music scene around my area. So I sort of like didn't really do anything musically for quite a few years. And then I got into another band called Silhouettes, and that's how I met Chris and Benji. They came to see us at a show, didn't you?
Yeah, in Leeds.
And then we met then and stayed in touch, and then that band ended up fizzling out, and an opportunity arose to join a band Chris was starting up. So I auditioned and thankfully got the position.
Yeah.
You've heard this guy's voice. You know that there was no.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I love the fact that you're so humble. Well, you're both so humble because, again, I mean, me from the outsider and just getting to talk to you today, there's a little fanboy action going on here, and it's strange because so you got to remember. I know this is very strange for you guys because I'm much older than you. I'm 55 years old. I'm 55.
You're looking good, bro.
Oh, thank you.
Good, mate.
But the point being is that. When music is good, right? When it's really good, when it touches you, and I don't want to use all the typical interview words like, the intangibles, but that's the truth. The reality is there's something that happens and it speaks to you. And you know what it is? Now that I'm talking to you both, not just watching you on a music video, I'm actually seeing the guys behind the artifice, right? And the humans and the contact and the smiles and the humility. And it's funny that you just said this, Chris, but it's true. It's almost like the more talented we are, the more we push back and say, no. And I don't think it's like, please stop telling me how beautiful I am. But it does tend to be this sort of uncomfortable thing, because I mean, you guys are really, really great musicians, and I love just how normal the better musicians are. They're not trying to, shoot anything up anybody's tailpipe. They just love to play, and they just happen to be really freaking good.
I think a lot of that comes from you don't get good without the practice and the hard work and things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with what you're saying. Like, I wouldn't be the first to be like, oh no, yeah, we are amazing. I think it's been little by little over years and years and years. I've been in, I couldn't even tell you how many bands I've been in that have gone everywhere. They've been every style of music. They've had every different type of person in. And I think realistically, I don't know how Matt feels on this, but ever since I was younger, I was always like, I've had bad experiences meeting people in bands, and they're just no, go away sort of thing. And I always promised myself when I was younger, I was like, if I ever get people to be bothered, I won't lose sight of the I want to hang out at the merch table and chat to them online. And people, we make a big deal in our band of I don't know if other bands do it, but the goal is to reply to every comment, every message, and with feeling as well, not just oh, cheers, thanks, bye, yeah. We actually sometimes burn ourselves into the ground, especially on new releases. It's they're going mad on Instagram, Twitter, the YouTube comments, everything. And we'll have, podcasts and interviews and things like that. And we want to really throw ourselves into it and show, it's an opportunity for us to show, like you say, that the people behind the music, because I think we try and present ourselves professionally because we want to be taken seriously. But,
you should be, yeah.
But we're, I don't know, we're nice guys. I think we're I think if somebody hung out with us, they'd be like, oh yeah, that was a good experience, rather than being like, oh, they were really good, and obviously they wouldn't speak to us after the show or something. We don't want to be those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Just average people, really.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Think so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like on your end, but anytime you meet somebody who's sort of a mega celebrity, and of course, as you guys are really, really sort of hitting the apogee, right? You're now in this new place, and it's going to continue to grow because you're so extraordinary. You're going to meet all these people that are your heroes, and you're going to be shocked by how normal most of them are, and what an asshole some of them are. It's a really strange thing, I mean, I'm not going to name a name, but my favorite drummer of all time, I watched him play, and I was just absolutely blown away. This is back in the mid '90s, and and I had tickets to. It's a long story, but I was backstage, and I was talking to him, and when he walked out of the dressing room, he came up to about here. And my brain absolutely thought he was, based on the sort of the gargantuan drum set and the things he was doing on stage. He seemed literally larger than me. And, and I'm 6'1", and he had to be 5'6". It completely blew my mind. Yeah,
exactly. You have an expectation of your idols and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Even coming down to how tall they are, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a strange thing. You both mentioned that there were certain bands you were listening to when things started to kind of percolate in you. So, Chris, you go first. What was the band you were listening to in the very beginning stages of your artistic journey?
Probably the standards, like the Blink-182s, the Green Days, things like that. But I think the first time that I really, really latched on to one specific band was Sum 41. Yeah, I bought a CD. I don't know if it was the deluxe edition or something, but it came with another disc that was a DVD. And basically that was them riding around in cars, shooting water pistols outside stuff, and ordering pizza, but doing stupid stuff on the phone. And that played into the things that were already drawing me into music, of the community of oh, these guys are they're in a band and it's great and they make the music, but then they were almost the brotherly love of it's them against the world kind of thing.
Yeah,
like, they gave off that vibe, and I was like, I want to be part of something like that. And sometimes that works out, and sometimes it doesn't. In bands, like, you know, sometimes you're in a band because somebody's really good at doing something, but you might not get on. And I've been in loads of bands like that, and it's really great now. Like, I finally found the one where the lifestyle of the band and the music of the band are both at the right place. Yeah. And I think they push each other because we're friends and chat and we hang out and because we like each other. Then we want to hang out, and then we make music, and it's like it all feeds into each other. So I'd say that Sum 41 was the big one for me, and I branched out into heavier types of music and things like that from afterwards. But that was the one where I was like, kind of like what you're saying, it showed a bit of the behind the curtain, which especially when I was listening to Sum 41, it must have been 2000s. Yeah. And it was sort of like home VCRs. There wasn't like that connection. Green Day, I had no idea what they were doing behind the scenes. Whereas this other band, I was like, well, these are just as good. And I felt a bit like, oh, no, like, you know. Yeah, yeah. And Green Day's unbelievable live. Like, I mean, like the level of musicianship and how tight they are as a band. Yeah. Nobody's cueing anyone. It's just gonk, 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 gonk. And you're just like, what? You know? Yeah. It's an amazing thing. How about you, Matt?
So Linkin Park have always been a band that they're a band that I've loved since I was like really, really young. But there was the album that got me into music, which got me playing more guitar, was the My Chemical Romance album, the Three Cheers for. Is it? Oh, I can't remember. 3 Cheers for
Sweet. Right. Not the Black Parade.
I can't remember right now. So yeah, like again, just putting myself away for weeks on end, learning that album. Also the American Idiot album. That was a big one, especially watching they did the Milton Keynes shows. Remember them? Yeah. I can remember watching them, and I think that, and just constantly listening to the MCR album drove me further away from the little sport kid that I was, and drove me more towards music.
Yeah. No. It makes sense. It's so funny though, and this is not a mock. I really want to make this clear. When you guys mention these bands, my brain goes, "Oh, that's right." You know what I mean? They're not 55 years old, right? You know what I mean? You can tell that Matt's younger than me by him saying those two albums, because they were like further on my journey of like, they were sort of like my second wave of Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, and the Chemical Romance, like. Because obviously there was a massive emo scene in the UK. Yeah. But it's quite funny, like it's sort of trickling down of you're probably listening to me, and then I'm thinking about Matt going, God, he must be. Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time Linkin Park came out, I had 3 kids. You know what I mean? And I was probably 10 years away from having grandchildren. It's crazy how it works. Something else you said that I don't want to forget, because I know this is true, this has to be true, is when you guys were trying out for bands, and Matt kind of said, oh, like, I'm not so good. Did you guys notice, that when you go into the room, and that when you sing, or that when you play bass, or whatever you're doing, that they all do the whole like, oh crap, we've got to have this guy, where it's not the same, and I don't mean this arrogantly at all, but it's not the same for you, because I've found, like what Chris was saying a second ago about how this is a cohesive unit, we make sense together now. It usually comes from the fact that the musicians you're typically hanging out with are not at your level, and that doesn't mean anything bad. It just means you're not a fit. You know what I mean? But did you find yourself constantly having to say no thanks? You know what I mean? Instead of like leaving in a huff because you're not good enough. It was usually like, this doesn't fit because, you know what I mean? They don't jive with me.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'd say from my personal experience, I feel like I've always been in bands where there's at least one member I've never been the best person in a band, so I've always had that carrot to chase. But then I'm not the worst either. So it's kind of like I've always sat in that. Like in our band, like our main selling point is Matt's vocals, and like I'm completely happy with that because I get to enjoy them as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that it's not. He gets a bit more pressure than I get. Do you know what I mean? They're not buying the tickets to the sold out show to be like, oh god, he's gonna give that bass some action tonight. Like, so I'm kind of sitting on the periphery of being like, I get to enjoy being in the band.
Oh yeah, look at him touch that neck. Oh my god, so hot.
Yeah,
don't do this to me. Come on.
In regards to this band, again, we don't think we're amazing or anything like that, but it is almost like it was set up in almost like a super group kind of way of like we'd had a project before that was starting to end, myself and Benji, the guitarist.
Gotcha.
And then we sort of carried the elements that were working from that band forward. And we'd seen, I already knew about Matt. I was meant to shoot a music video. I was meant to shoot that Silhouettes music video with the neon lights that you did.
Yeah.
I was meant to come help. So I already knew about Matt. Yeah.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Dom shot that video, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I knew about Matt's band before they were even. So he'd been in the peripherals of like, if I ever get a chance to work with that guy, I need to get him. Right. So we were getting the music side together, and we had a different drummer at the time. And then as soon as Matt became available, we tried him out. He thinks he was trying out. We got Matt.
He made an audition.
and then we the things weren't going great with the other drummer, so we asked where we normally record our music. We asked the producer. We said, who's the best drummer who's come through who plays our style of music? I want his contact details. So the guy immediately, no thinking, he went, it's James, this James Lazenby guy. He did a couple of tracks, almost like session for the producer's project. He was like, hands down best drummer. So I was like, right, he's getting row. So it's like we didn't. I'm not saying that I'm supergroup, but I almost built it around myself of going, right, well, I've already got Benji. And then the last piece was me moving from playing guitar to playing bass so that we could get our friend Craig in, who's probably arguably the best guitarist that I know, where it's just like, you take the reins on that. And I've played bass in bands before, so I was just like, I'll move to that. Yeah. So we've now kind of got I don't know, I'll just argue it's the ultimate. If I could be in a band with anyone, I'm already in it.
Yeah.
Cheers,
that's fantastic. Yeah, that's really cool. I love the fact that we just got a new piece of information too. Matt didn't even know.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That was nuts.
All I saw was the song got sent to me, and it was the two S's, and it was like grey and blue, and it said whatever the name of the song was.
Yeah.
Constellation or something like that. Or
you didn't come to that, mate. That video shoot was hell.
It looked like it was in like a school like hall or something.
Oh, dude, it was like 400 degrees, man, for about 14 hours. It was horrible.
It'd have got done quicker if I'd have done it, mate.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so let's so before we get to the new stuff, because we're going to talk about that, we definitely need to talk about that. I do want to touch briefly on the thing nobody wants to talk about, which is the name thing. And I don't want to talk about the legal stuff because I know, I know how to honor all this, so we're not going to go there, right?
Sweet.
But I know that name changes can be devastating because I experienced one myself. It wasn't at your level, but I live near Seattle. And back in the heyday in the mid 90s, when I was trying to be a famous rock star, we had a band called Grasshopper. And we were doing really well. We were being featured on all the local stuff. I mean, things were really starting to take off for us in a big way. I mean, in a really big way, surprisingly quick. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got one of those cease and desists, right? And we ended up changing our name. Well, we went through like 12 different arguments about what kind of name we were going to make ourselves. And we thought, well, we've got to really go off the deep end and try something different so we never have this problem again. And of all things, and you guys are going to laugh because you're British, we called ourselves Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is that's a stupid freaking name. And anyways, it's as lame as it sounds, right? But a few weeks later, the best shows we were getting were sports bars. I mean, it crushed any momentum we had. Wow. And I feel like you guys, as much as it might have been painful for somebody like me who's discovering you, I really only know you as Caskets, right? And even better, you guys were already sort of over the beginner's hump. You already had significant juice online. You're getting, hundreds of thousands of views on your videos. You have major label support. Was it, again, without being, going down too long an uncomfortable road, was it as devastating initially to you as you expected, or was it a little easier?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So yeah, we were.
I'm sorry.
No.
Ask.
I'm taking it.
No, it's fine.
I can't say.
So it's devastating, mate. It's devastating.
Yeah.
So to preface this, we don't wish any ill on the other band or anything like that.
No, of course not.
That sort of window's past now of being sort of annoyed about it.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, obviously, I would argue that naming a band is one of the hardest things to do in a band. I feel like we could write a song faster than we could come up with a name. Because it says so much about the band. If we're called the Raving Chainsaws or something, we're already painting a picture to someone flicking through a magazine or Spotify or something and going, I don't know if I'm in the mood for the Raging Chainsaws today.
Yeah.
So we picked a name. We really liked having the single name, that almost like the brand. Do you know what I mean? Of being like, it's Captives. Mm-hmm. So we went with that. We went through that name. We'd got I want to say we had 50 names in a hat of being like, what is it? And we all voted on them, sort of blind voting. And we're like, oh, these ones have got 4 each. And then we decided on Captives. And obviously, when you first start a band, no one's bothered. So there was never any conversation about, we're going to get told off or anything like that. And it was maybe, I don't know, 8 months or something before we sort of were going on Spotify enough to be like, we should see if there's another band. And there was maybe 3 or 4, some still together, some not, some doing all right. And we were like, well, the only other one that's got anything is in Australia, and they were, not to discredit them, they weren't making massive waves, and they were punk rock. So there's a little bit of a difference. So we carried on as normal, and then things obviously, like you said, start to pick up for us. We start to get the label interest and all things like that, and we start to get millions of plays on Spotify. And for us, it starts to be like, oh god, it's actually getting away from us now. It's like it's its own thing. We were recording a live session for Sirius XM, which is obviously a massive station in America.
Huge. Yep.
I think, to be honest as well, it's bigger than we actually realized it was when we first started.
It's a big damn deal.
Yeah, because you don't get it in England, so we've never heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
when people are obviously saying certain car manufacturers sell more cars because it comes with Sirius XM on it and things like that. So I was like, this must be massive. So we were riding high of being like, wow, we've been asked by this massive American label and arguably our biggest target market. I'd say our music sells well in America. We get to the studio, we're all buzzing to get going, and we get this message from our manager saying, we've just received a cease and desist from this Australian band, and we were like shaken by it of like, oh god, that's terrible. And it was really going in on us. It wasn't like come on now, we've seen this, can you change it, blah, blah, blah. It was delete your website, destroy all your merch, change your name, almost like disappear, basically. Yeah. And obviously we're not in a position where we can afford to disappear financially and personally. Like, we've poured everything into this band.
Yeah, emotional. Everything from your heart is in that thing. Yeah.
So we sort of put it to the back of his minds as best we could, did the performance because we're like, look, this is this is what we need to focus on now, getting this serious stuff sorted. And then, long story short, we sort of tried to meet it with the same sort of pushback of like, no, we won't be. You know, they didn't come for a chat. It wasn't like,
they were here for a fight.
Yeah, so we sort of fought back. And then the story sort of goes that because they'd already set wheels in motion on our side of the pond. So they're an Australian band, been going for 8 years. They'd registered in the UK, and that process takes a certain amount of time. So they'd registered, say, 12 months ago, kept quiet, never spoke to us, nothing, anything. And as soon as they got the go-ahead of being like, oh, here's the piece of paper that says you own it in the UK, despite never coming over here, never having gigs anywhere near here. And
the bands come over here by looks of it, like.
Yeah, and they've been going 8 years. So, like, why do they need to protect that name in the UK specifically now? So it got to the point where our legal advice was, you can win this, but you'll have to survive for 8 months. The process will take 8 months to be like, look, you've unlawfully done this. Like, you're not a UK, you have no UK presence. Mm-hmm. And for us, we'd already delayed the album because of COVID. And we took the hit ourselves of being like, look, the name change will hurt us. Like, personally, we're less bothered about the money and stuff like that. Like, that comes and goes. But we were like, there's a lot of memories and, a sentiment attached to this name, but we can't make the fans wait longer. If we delay it out by 8 months, we could potentially fall into the trap that you said, where we lose the steam, and there's always great bands coming out and pushing to get to the top. So if we sort of go, oh, we'll just take a back seat now. Yeah. So that was our whole stance on it. We wanted to fight. We wanted to keep the name. We've got fans who've got the old name tattooed on them. We felt literally awful about it. And all the merchandise that people had bought and everything was going through our heads of like, we had to bin, thousands and thousands of pounds of merchandise. Unfortunately, about a week before it came through, we just printed a load of merch. But we were like, look, let's take it on the chin, and it's the music is what's important. And we want to hold firm on that of at the end of the day, we could be called anything within reason. And it's the music that speaks for us. And like you say, you only know us as Caskets now. And I think once we got over that initial tearing off the Band-Aid of this is going to hurt, once we did it, if anything, we were met with an outpouring of support and love, and it was like a rallying cry of, if you love this band and care about this band, then let's make it happen as a collective, the fans, and go stream them. Obviously, our music got taken down, so all our music got taken off Spotify, and that was the kind of another thing for us of, if we lose our voice, if they take down our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we disappear on the internet. We have to make a new account, and then we have to somehow find everybody who liked our band and be like, oh, by the way, hi, I know you don't know who we are because we've got a different name, but we're so-and-so. So everything was disappearing one by one. Spotify went, and Apple Music went, and Deezer, and then we were getting notifications on our Facebook and on our Instagram that there'd been strikes against a trademark infringement, and we knew that we'd have had to go away for at least 8 months to sort this problem out. And obviously, before, it probably even within a few months, everything would have gone. Do you know what I mean? And we'd have not had no voice whatsoever. And by the time we'd have come back with a different name, there'd have been absolutely nothing to come back to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So our fans were incredible when we told them about it. It was amazing, to be fair, because I thought we was up creek without a paddle for a while.
There's a lot of sleepless nights. The worst thing was waking up every morning and doing is Instagram still there? Yes. Is Facebook still there? Yes. Have any more of his music gone? Things like that. So if anything, when it actually push came to shove to announce and change the name, it was almost like a sigh of relief of we're not living in fear for arguably, I guess in the eyes of the law, we'd done something wrong, but we kind of felt a bit we're just guys trying to play music, and our music brings people so much joy that it's we were actually genuinely worried about the well-being of some of our fans, because they go to our music as an escape. we get so many messages, especially because of the lyrical content, and you can hear the emotion in Matt's voice when he sings and he delivers the music.
Yeah.
That I was really worried about fans being like, well, where's their safety net gone? Of, you know, I just put, you know, X song on and, you know, for 3 minutes, I can be somewhere else.
Disappear.
Yeah. And we were getting a lot of messages of people being like, oh, like almost the day it went down, people almost like woke up, brushed their teeth, get on the bus to go to work, and they're like, oh my God, where's it gone? And like, that was devastating for us. And that lasted for over a month.
Yeah.
I think we're still slowly feeling the effects from it. I mean, we're still getting the odd comment on our music videos and stuff like that, like saying that they've only just realised that we've had to change our name and stuff like that, and like having to give direction to the statement we put out ages ago.
Somebody was like, I'm sure this guy's in another band. And I was like, no, it's our band.
Yeah, that's the lead singer of Captives.
Yeah, he took the font and everything with him.
He's a cheeky little one, isn't it?
You know, I think it's hard for outsiders to understand too, that because you're musicians and musicians have artist hearts, and it's not the same because and I'm not trying to equate, you know, add myself into your story, but musicians, we tend to want to we want attention, but we don't want it in the way people think we do. We create music for others to celebrate or for catharsis or something. Sure, we're, you know, lyrical content might mean something, you know, that occurred to me. Maybe I lost a loved one, or this is how I feel about love, or I'm pissed off about this. But we actually do it because we know it speaks to our fan base and our potential fan base. And we know that taking that out of their lives devastates them, which in turn devastates us. Because look, man, I don't care. If you say, Rob, I'm going to give you the best drum set in the world, but you're not going to have anybody to play it to. Well, why would I want that? Right. And it's about that immediacy with your audience. So I'm sorry that you walked through that, but it's awesome that you walked through it and that you didn't lose yourselves and that you didn't let it destroy the fiber of who you are and what you create. Because again, I know I keep saying it, but what you're making is really, really incredible, powerful music that walks across the border. And what I love too about it, and we'll get to this shortly, is the sort of genre bending that you're doing with your styles. You can clearly hear all these influences in your work, but it really is singular. And I talked to a lot of different people, man. And when I heard your music, there was obviously, I hear all these influences that I believe, that I should say that I hear. It doesn't mean that they're your influences, but there are things I hear that I go, oh, I've heard something like that before. And please don't get me wrong. Again, there's nothing derivative about what you're doing. I don't feel like you're copying anything or anything, but you seem to wear your influences on your sleeve. And then because of this genre bend, these stylistic moments, these things that happen in the middle of your songs, the drops, the heavier parts, the more emo, the more screamo, all the different melodic pieces. It feels very much like Caskets. So again, it really doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything from here forward. It's just you, Caskets, incredible songs, a huge future, and a hell of a past. That's all it means.
Yeah,
crazy, man.
I think Matt would agree with me as well. Of like, it's shown that we can go through hell and back. Like, and if we haven't played a show for what, 13 months now, Matt, maybe longer. We've longer. We've had the reward in some senses for a musician of the doing it live. We've had that taken away from us. We've had all the stuff with the name, which thankfully we're on the other side of. And like the uncertainty about the future of like, well, we've seen what could happen if we just get cut off streaming sites, or if we drop off. we've almost seen how bad it can be, and it's made us band together. Like I feel like what's gonna shake us in the future now, if we can navigate a pandemic, a name change, throwing all of merchandise away.
Yeah.
Having to almost in some ways like re-find an audience of going, oh, there's a lot of articles and things with that name, but that's not us now. Like I think it's cemented the bond between us even more, which I do believe helps the music, because it's like we can talk openly with, like, the more friends me and Matt are, we do a lot of the lyric writing together. So like I feel like I can open up to Matt about anything. Like we've had joint low times. We could write a heartbreaking story about waking up every morning and thinking, everything could be gone, like because we've lived it at the same time.
Yeah, you're not pretending, that's for sure. When I heard about this whole thing, I actually wrote a little joke and I said, if this ever happens again, you guys can call yourself cadavers, because now you're captives in a casket. But nice. I don't know. I'm being silly. So Matt,
what
yeah.
He's the dad.
How do you mentioned just now, Chris? How do you write your songs? There's always a process for every band. Sometimes the vocalists, in order to convey what they really feel, they're sort of assigned the lyrics, and yet you mentioned that you two get together for the lyrics. I don't know if in all cases, but who sort of brings the melodies in? Who decides which song is aggressive and not? How does it work with you?
I'll let Matt take this one.
Please.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that we have a specific set way of writing songs. I think I'd like to think we're a band that are very much still in their infancy, especially the writing, for all the right reasons, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, because of COVID, before COVID, we used to all meet up. Like we'd spend weekends together. Me, Chris, and Benji mainly. And Benji normally starts the writing process with the music or the demos, and then we'll get together and listen over him. And sometimes we'll be able to start writing over something. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and then other times Benji can send me something, and when I'm on my own, I can flesh something out. Do you know what I mean? So it works loads of different ways, but since COVID happened, it's mainly been complete digital. Like so yeah, everything was like done through Dropbox. Benji'd send demos through to me, and then I'd work on lyrics, and like we'd get in Zoom calls together, and we flesh through my initial ideas and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say like Benji sort of starts the writing process. Most of the time I'll start the lyrical process and the melody process, and then I always come together with Chris eventually somewhere through the song, and we'll always backtrack and go through. Everything is meticulously done. Like every note, every word is thought about 500 times over, and
sure.
Whether we can make it better in any way possible. So yeah, we spend a lot of time in drafting up demos and stuff like that. We've already started drafting up demos for album 2. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's a specific way that we do it, and I like to think that that's good, because then you can always meddle with those different ways of writing and possibly bring more people in and stuff like that. I think we've still got a lot of room to we've got like a lot of room to use different ways of writing. I've got a lot of growing to do as a frontman, as a vocalist still, and as a lyricist. I feel like I feel like I'm not where I not could be, should be. I don't know which one to use, but I feel like I've still got a lot of growing to do as a musician and as a vocalist. So I don't think we're anywhere near writing our best music that we can yet. I think there's many better albums to come than our debut.
I mean, all I know is this is it's so much fun to listen to you say that, Matt, because as Chris and I are both sort of like almost winking at each other, it's like how much better does your voice have to be? It's really crazy. You can't add 2 more octaves. I mean, my God, man, you're kind of already way up the piano, so to speak, right?
I definitely tried to make him sing 2 octaves.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think I don't know. I think all musicians are their own biggest critic. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I think
for us as well.
You know, I listen to the album now, and I don't know if Chris is the same, but I listen to it and I think could have done that better. Could have filled something in that gap there that would have made it loads of better. Do you know what I mean? And I think
done though, isn't it? You know, we always say like, someone goes, "Oh, like, how do you know when the song's done?" And we're like, "Well, when there's the deadline." Like, it's never done.
It's never done.
As soon as we recorded the EP, there's like the story behind that. Obviously, we had a different drummer, and then I asked for the better drummer, and he had 2 weeks to listen to the demo to then record it. So like immediately, do you know what I mean? A week later, he was like, "Oh, that feels terrible" and stuff. So like, we
nailed that in a week.
But as we rise through the ranks, there's always someone better. Like,
play and thank God.
Actually. Yeah, we'll play a show and we'll think, "Oh yeah, we've smashed that," and then the band will come on after us, and we'll be like, "Oh, we've just got absolutely schooled here." So I think that's the thing that Matt's getting at of like, to somebody else, like, wow, how could it get any better than X, Caskets song? But for us, we're in that the machine of the band of like the on to the next. We can't stop the creativity coming of like, we could say to Benji, "Oh, no more demos for a bit," like we've just done this first album. But like Matt says, now that we've worked out how to do it online, it's almost like there's no excuse. Like before, it was like, "Oh, we're going to do like a big lyric session on Saturday night," and when that initially got took away, we were like, "All right, well, I guess we'll leave lyrics till later." But now that we've got apps on his phone where it's like we've got an app called like Quip, where we're just like, right, that's the song. Any lyrical ideas that pertain to that theme, they just I'm driving to work and I think, "Oh God, that's great," and I'm literally almost racing to work to get parked up and be like, "Here's the lyric." But we're like, kind of when he was saying there's no set process, we kind of started to get a process, and then we got COVID, and now I think it's turned into like we're really big cheerleaders of each other's work, and we're like happy to leave like aces in places. Like there's no kind of like I have to write the bass line for every song. Like it's we've learned over the years of the other bands of like we do what we do to service the song, and if the song means there's no bass in the second verse, or there's no crazy drum fill, or there's no super high note for Matt, we do what serves the song. And like I think that's something that only comes with like maturity and like time of being in bands. If you're the lead guitarist and you can rip a crazy solo, that it takes a certain person to be like, this one doesn't need that. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you get that feeling, don't you, of going, right, all eyes on me on stage, I'm going to do the thing. And I think the lockdown has helped us with that. With like the prospect of playing the gig was so far away that normally when you're writing, you would be playing shows and then writing in the gaps. And it's almost like you sometimes think about it too much live. Matt might go, "Oh, not that. Like, how are we going to do that live? Or let's pitch the song down or slow it down or speed it up." Or I think because we've been so far removed from the end goal of playing it live, that we've really just focused on what makes it the best song. We don't have a synth player, but the new song's got loads of synth in it. So we're like, right, we'll figure out getting that on the backing track.
Yeah.
It's all been for servicing the song.
That's awesome. And that makes sense. It's wise of you. The thing about COVID that's been actually fantastic is it's forced creativity, right? And it's like created a second series of deadlines. And I mean, look, some of the best bands in the world, when left to their own devices, make massive, massive mistakes because they get these bloated albums. You know, they're almost like double-sided LPs, right? The old school way of thinking is like, you know, I want to have these long players, you know, that are concept records, and nobody cares. I mean, the people that care, you know, is about 1 inch, right? It's just very, very small. What people want to be able to absorb are these moments, you know, these 3 or 4 or 5 minute snapshots of who you are and what you create. And I mean, it's brilliant what you're saying, Chris, and obviously you as well, Matt, is you guys have figured out how to navigate all of this, and you've refined your sound. But the one thing I have to touch on, and it's even more brilliant that you said this, is how does this play live? You know, because I can listen to a great album. I mean, we've all experienced this. Great album, you go to see a band, and it's awful. It's awful. You know, it's missing pieces. And I'm not saying they should have backing tracks, but it's missing, you know, this really thick sound because they just can't pull it off live. Alice in Chains was an example of this in their initial incarnation. They had this big fat record sound, this big hard rock sound, and they sound like dog crap live. I mean, just awful. Soundgarden was the same way, except every song was too fast. It's like, you know, there's all these things that have to happen, and that's really wise of you to recognize that. So, I mean, not that you need me to tell you how cool it is, but that's good thinking.
I think Matt's always the first to say, like, guys, like, if this is good, we're gonna have to play it live, and because obviously the pressure is on Matt. Like that's the sometimes where we have to sometimes ease off the gas a bit on our name and being like, do another one of them big high notes, like falling apart. We've played that how many times live? 6 or 7, and it's got that big note at the start, and it's everybody's waiting for it. Everybody who knows who we are at the gig is waiting for it, and like. I don't know how Matt copes with it. Like they're like, go on then, and then he's got the whole rest of the song to sing. It's not like, oh, I do that and then it's, you know, lights out and he can have a drink.
But he can do it. That's the thing.
That note every time, mate. Every time.
I think it's just like he's done it. I've been stood next to him. And he's like, right, falling apart. Like, I'm going to gun it. And I think he's. Because it's so high, you can't half it, can you? You can't just be like, I'm falling apart.
Yeah. Falling apart. Yeah.
I think he's figured out the adrenaline scoop of just like, go.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that with your voice too, especially with something, you know, again, the music is very melodic and it's very singy, meaning, you know, you are clearly a focal point, and especially like in that moment. How do you get, I mean, is it natural? Because, you know, I listen to a lot of, you know, hardcore stuff too. Okay. So, you know, bands with the, you know, lots of, you know, Cookie Monster vocals and that sort of thing. And I've always been curious as a drummer, how anybody pulls that off, because I would think it would destroy vocal cords. Right. And then when I was listening to your singing, Matt, I'm thinking, my God, man, like he hits these notes, but there's that, it's like Chester had, there's that little rasp. But okay. And God bless Chester. And I loved Chester. But you're way better. And then, I mean, you are. Your voice is so freaking good. And I mean, people will see. I'm telling you, people will see. People are going to listen to the show and go, yeah. I mean, it's. Look, Chester was his own thing, and he was amazing. I mean, he was freaking amazing. And no disrespect to him now that he's passed. But thank God for guys like Matt that have this really outstanding, ferocious power in their voice, because it is rare. It is rare. You guys wouldn't be where you are if you didn't have the songs and you didn't have the voice and you didn't have the isms that make Caskets for real, because you're for real. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a reason it's not just Sharp Tone, Nuclear Blast. I mean, the freaking Europe, man, they're paying attention. And Adam Kerr from As Everything Unfolds has become a buddy of mine, and he actually, I hit him up. I said, "Hey, I'm talking to the Caskets guys." He goes, "Oh, they're lovely. They're just lovely. They're lovely." And he said, "Can I ask him? Can I ask him a question?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, he wanted to know, and I'm going to read it here because I don't want to forget. When did you know music was everything you wanted to do? And what were the obstacles in your way as you attempted to make this life a reality?
Wow. That's a good one. I'm going to be definitely messaging him after, now that we've got to answer that.
I just need to go and get my charger. I'm sorry.
No worries. So yeah, so the Everything
Chris
Unfolds.
Save you.
Yeah. So the Everything Unfolds band, amazing people. Like, love all those.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd probably say, I guess we've touched on it already with seeing the sort of the Sum 41 thing, but then Linkin Park were the next one for me. Of like, Hybrid Theory was the next thing, and like the more gigs I went to and the more I got embroiled in the lifestyle that goes along with being like alternative. It's kind of just the feeling of like finding something that was right for me. I've never wanted to like work a desk job and all those sort of things. And to me, it was always about the feeling that the music gave me, listening to it and playing it, but the lifestyle that it allowed to express yourself and, and to go away from the norm of like dye your hair a crazy color and be in a band that sounds like Cookie Monster. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been in many bands where my parents have been like, "Oh, you sound really good on the guitar, but can't act that vocals." Like, but that was part of the journey for me of like, of not to be cheesy and be like to like rebel, because it was I'd never really felt like it was like I was trying to push back on anything in particular, but it was just the freedom to be yourself. That was the big draw of like, what can I do that A, makes me happy, B, makes other people around me happy, and like grows that friendship group, and see like just to be able to be who you want to be. And like that's a great thing with this, of like, if this ever gets to the point where it's our full-time thing of like, we quit our day jobs and things like that, I enjoy doing all the parts that I do. Like, I'll make the graphics for the social medias, and I'll go and have a writing session with Matt, and we'll, and obviously things like this, like, this is really fun. Like, most people after work will probably come home, cook the tea, watch a bit of telly, and then it's back to work again. Whereas we've all got this kind of like project at the side where it's an escape. Like, I imagine Matt will want to chime in on this, but like when I first met Matt, he was sort of just working, odd jobs, and like, I feel like I've got to see Matt grow as a person, because he's grabbed it like by the reins. Do you know what I mean? I've been like, well, what is a good frontman? And like he's saying, he's constantly working on like, how can I be the best version? And that's the kind of people that I want to surround myself with. And I always find that that's creative people, like that want to go distance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're anything like me, you want to be the weakest link in the band because it makes you better. You have to come up to their level. And I love that. Matt, what about your response? I mean, Chris made it really clear. And I mean, you already said this as far as, sort of when did music become the thing for you? And I understand that. But outside of the name change, what other obstacles did you encounter on your way to where you are?
Go on, Matt.
I think
Poor Matt.
I don't ever think, I've never really thought about if music was ever the thing for me. Probably until I started this band. I guess it's one of those things, like as a a teenager, 15, 16, like learning how to play an instrument and getting into that life of music. I was always one of those kids that just wanted to, be in a band and and just being a band. You know what I mean? I never thought, because like where I live or where I lived, and the lack of opportunity and stuff like that around me in my lifestyle at that time, I never really gave myself the opportunity to think about if I could do it seriously.
Just jumped off the cliff.
So like Chris said, like I was just like jotting through, you know, through jobs like in my mid-20s, like going nowhere really. And it's sort of being literally dragged out of that lifestyle by Chris, and being shown. I'd never met musicians that were so on it. Do you know what I mean? Like I've met loads of musicians that are really talented and know the music industry and stuff like that, but I'd never met musicians that were so on it with absolutely everything, stuff I'd never even thought about, stuff I'd never even considered you'd need to think about to be in a band. So yeah, I'd say it was like at the birth of this band that I realized, or probably like a few months after the birth of the band, that I realized I wanted to do this as a living, because I knew, you can't have glory by yourself. Do you know what I mean? You can't do it. You can't do it all on your own. And you need like amazing musicians that have the right attitude, have the right mentality, and talented as hell to be able to ride that wave with. You know what I mean? And within a few months, I realized that these were once we got James in the band, and then Craig, I realized that these were the guys that I wanted to ride that wave with, I guess. But still, because I've got that mentality of that. When I did join this band, I didn't expect this to happen, especially this quick. So, it's still like not. We signed to a major record label last year, and like I think right now, and it's still not sunk in. Do you know what I mean? It still don't feel real.
Yeah.
So I feel like that question could be still ongoing.
Yeah.
I know when you said about the obstacles, I think Matt saw the biggest amount, whether he knows it or not. Like, I think kind of what he was saying, he was like in a certain sort of lifestyle of like, just, making ends meet and not really kind of living for the moment kind of vibes. Right. Whereas we sort of took him under our wing, and we're a lot more like delayed gratification sort of guys, where it's like, let's work and work and work and work. And then we'll drive through the night and do his own tour driving. Yeah. To get big, so that then we can chill out on the big tour bus and be like, yeah. So I think the hard thing for Matt was like, without us and without like a unit around him that were willing to sort of say, to sort of kick him up the ass to be like, look, you need to write that. Said you were going to write the demos on the weekend. So if you don't, like, I don't think Matt had the sort of the luxury to go, all right, well, I'll just quit my job and I'll just become a singer in a band sort of thing. Like, so I think without us dragging him out, like, we obviously spotted the diamond in the rough, do you know what I mean? Of like, this guy's insanely talented, and with the right sort of guidance, we can, like, he's a completely different person to the person that I originally met. They're both, I love both versions of Matt, but like, he's become a better person by, because I think it's humbling as well. Do you know what I mean? You're telling him that he's better than Chester Bennington, which I still don't agree with, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's put a lot of hard work into this band, as of all the other guys in it. And like, I think Matt's now seen that, you might want to chill out and have a beer on a night. Yeah. Yeah. That's only feels a certain amount of good versus coming out on stage and everyone being like, he's going to do the falling apart thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let me go back a second, because I didn't mean to say better than Chester Bennington.
Oh, I think you said it.
I know I did say it, but
I don't believe you.
But it's prettier. It's prettier. It is. Chester's voice was raw. and incredible. I mean, it was
Very raw,
incredible. That guy had an incredible voice. I remember years ago, somebody asking me, who do you think the best singer rock is? I was like, Chester Bennington. It's clear. It was so clear. The reason I say better is because to me, right, like my personal taste is I like a slightly less crunchy voice. I like a little more. My wife calls it a superhero voice. It's just this really clean, melodic, powerful, sort of overwhelming voice that just punches you because it's so crystalline. Your voice, Matt, is crystalline. It's almost operatic in its power. And your ability to hit those notes. And granted, look, I get it, studio tricks, all the things, but your voice is for real. That's not an artificial version of your voice. And I know that because I can hear it. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is for me personally, I think you're a better singer.
There you go. He's got it. He's
man.
going to get in the group chat.
I just shout and tune most of the time, to be fair.
I think a good thing for us as well is like the limitation of Matt not being able to scream at a level where we'd be like, oh yeah, you're the screamer as well. I think that actually helped us out loads of like, we made a decision once we got Matt, we were like, we don't need anyone else. We don't need to be like, right, look at that guy while he sings. Now look at that guy while he screams. And I think, if anything, the fact that the music is asking for it. Do you know what I mean? The music does things where you think, oh, break down now, break out the screams.
Right.
I think because Matt can't scream or doesn't scream, I think that takes him to that area that you're saying where there's the slight grit comes out. Because he physically has to push so hard, to ride the wave of right. We're doing the breakdown now, so you can't suddenly be like, like I think it's. I think in some ways the limitation of that has cemented us to the thing that we decided at the start. Like if suddenly Matt learned how to scream, I feel like we might come into an awkward bit where he might go, can I do the cool thing? Like the cool thing. And we'd probably be like, well, I feel like in some ways that's what separates us from our like contemporaries of being like, right, well,
because you're not, that's exactly why I said you're not derivative. The derivative thing would be you do the big breakdown and Matt goes, oh, I mean, it's not needed. You guys stand out because you do certain things that take you there that you expect and other things that you don't. And again, how many of those growly guys can hit Matt's notes?
Yeah.
Poor Matt, we're talking about him like he's not in the room.
He's used to it.
Oh, so good. Well, so look, you're here partly to connect with my audience on the new record, Lost Souls, right? And that comes out in August. So, I mean, we're way ahead of the promo curve here. What's the plan of attack? I mean, I'm sure you're going to be talking to a million guys like me, or that pretend that
none of them. This has been awesome.
Oh no, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of guys that will love what you do, but then there's a lot of guys that will pretend to love what you do because that's the nature of this business. And it sucks. It totally sucks and you'll be able to tell and you'll have to pretend you don't notice. But I mean, do you get tired of the promo? Or are you like Paul McCartney that, like that guy just loves, like if you walk up to him, he'll have a conversation with you. He just loves to be famous. He loves it.
Yeah. I think we're definitely more that way than the other way. Like it goes back to what we said earlier of like, I don't know how Matt feels, but like I promised myself to be like, you're never too good to like stop and speak to someone at the merch desk or take a photo or sign something or like, do you know what I mean? Like we've set a lot of things for ourselves of like, we sell our CD, like our EP, and on the website, you can choose whether you want it signed or not. And to be fair, especially in pandemic times, getting them signed was a nightmare because I'd have to almost drive to outside Matt's house, leave a stack of 20 CDs and be like, you sign your name, give them back. I'm off to, Wakefield to get James to sign them. But we've always said that we don't charge extra for that. If you want the one that's signed, that means that I've got to drive around half of the UK to get the signatures. We don't charge anymore, and like we're really big on stuff like that. Like I don't know how Matt feels, but I don't ever want to be that. I don't want to be that band that's like, oh, pay for the meet and greet, pay to hang out with us. I understand bands that do it, and they're full time and they need to make money, and I don't know the ins and outs of their record deal or anything like that. But like for me personally, I don't ever think I'll be that sure of myself to be like, you should be paying to hang out with me. Like, and the same with this. Like, I'm loving spending the night with you guys. Like, I mean, Matt's here, you're here. Like, you like the music. I can tell that you like the music.
Love it.
I don't. At least at the moment,
I don't agree with it
or anything like that. Like, I like it.
What was that, Matt? Say that again.
No, I don't agree with it. Like the fans are gods. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be charging gods to come and chill here.
Well, without them, right?
Yeah. We've done loads of projects.
Man, like I just don't. It should be. I just don't agree with it personally. I'd love to do it like through like little competitions and stuff like that on Instagram to like be able to come backstage or whatever. But I don't agree with like making someone pay to come and chill with you or whatever like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't mean to put a bummer on anything, but
No. You know what, Chris? I could tell he was going to drop because it was too much lag. Yeah.
He'll be back.
He'll be back. So let me ask while he's gone. Let's talk about him while he's gone. Yeah. So I mean, but do you get tired of the promo? I mean, you said you love to be around. You just love to be in it because without the promo, without the fans, there is really no band, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and for me as well, like that's part of the thing. I feel like you can't be like, oh, I want to be X, but I don't want to, I want to be the best footballer in the world, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go to training on Sundays because it's raining. Like, I think for me, I don't view them as separate things. I don't view it as like, oh, my job is to stand on stage and play bass. Like, I do quite a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, like making the graphics, and like there's only 2 of us in the band that can drive. So like if we're doing a tour in the UK, it's me or Craig driving. So like to me, there's no line where it's like, oh no, sorry, there's no diva moment where it's like I'm too good to do this. Like it's all a step towards the dream. So for me, it's kind of like you've got to pay your dues, and like I actually do genuinely enjoy it. Like it's nice to talk about the band and to hear what other people think, good or bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were like, oh, it needs screams. Even if I don't agree with that, it's nice to know what people are actually thinking, because we like watching like reaction videos and things like that. And you probably won't be surprised. Like every time it gets to the bit where it sounds like it's going to be the big bad breakdown, everybody in the video goes, here it is. And
here's the drop.
Yeah. And sometimes we do more of a breakdown than others, but I think especially people who are genuinely reacting to it haven't heard it before. Yeah. They're like, oh, I thought he was going to start screaming then, because it's the music. it's the archetype, isn't it? Of like, oh, here's the screamy bit.
It is. Do you feel like your fan base has evolved with your sound?
It's very hard to say much about the fan base at the moment, because I feel like we were just getting to the point where a large amount of people were starting to care about the band.
Right.
And then we've had the lockdown.
Right.
So I couldn't tell you what it's going to be like our last show versus our first show back. Like you would, in most cases, you play a gig and the next gig, it might have a couple more people there. We might go from the 50 people or 100 people to 150 people. Yeah. Whereas I don't think we fully know the scope of how much things have changed, because we've been locked away, and like it's not the same as you're one person who's listening to our music, but if we go on Spotify and it says, oh, there's 100 people listening to you right now, they're like, I always struggle to be like, they're 100 human beings that have got lives, and they go to work and they've got partners and they listen to loads of other bands, but right now 100 of them are listening to us. So like I think the fans are definitely on board with we were a bit worried about this last single that came out, Lost in Echoes, because of we'd tried to do something a little bit different. I would argue that the first 20 seconds of it, if it came on the radio, I don't think someone would be like, oh, definitely it's a Caskets song. Like,
I love it though.
Only when Matt's vocals come in, I think that's when someone goes, oh yeah, I recognize it. He's the glue that holds together the experimentation, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah.
We didn't want to write an album of 11 tracks that was just like, glass art. Like, even though people like that and they're like, oh, favorite song ever, like, we could very easily do the same thing. And kind of, I don't know if we would get away with it, but we've sort of pushed out on certain bits of going like, Benji, who writes a lot of the instrumental stuff, he's really into like Synth Wave. And that was the sort of like, oh, could we try something like this? And that's where Lost in Echoes came from. Still got the core of what is a Caskets song.
Yeah.
Well, it just takes I'd just say it just takes 20 seconds of like adjustment time of going, oh, right. There's loads of, I think the video was a help with that as well, of like, oh, we're going for this kind of like Tron 80s theme, like get on board sort of thing right from the off.
Yeah.
But people have been, like, you were asking if they've been accepting. I think they have. We've had the odd comment where people are like, oh, I don't like this as much as X song. But
right.
There's not been any like, oh, these guys, they're awful now. Like, we were worried that people might think that we'd changed name and direction.
Yeah.
Dropped.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to do I think they're boring albums when they're like, they're too safe. And you're like, oh yeah, it's this. Because we're in a certain key. Matt has a certain range.
Right.
There's certain things that work. Drop out all the music before the chorus drops. Like, do the bridge or the breakdown, build up to the big moment. Like, we have got like signature things that we do and other bands do. But we have tried on the album to push out a bit of being like, right, well, let's not do a halftime chorus every time, or let's not drop all the music out. Like, that was one of the hardest things writing the album, of making sure that we weren't just going to, if something sounds good every time, you get caught in the web of being like, well, you've got to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, they like the breakdown, so every song's got a breakdown in, like, and you're like, oh, now I've wrote the same song 11 times.
Well, the thing is though, I mean, fortunately, you're correct. I mean, the DNA of you guys, of you as a core, as a group, it's always going to kind of sound like you, regardless of the name. It depends on how much you pursue, following in the footsteps of people who have influenced you. That's when everything kind of either changes, right? So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's important to be almost ferociously independent. You can wear your influences on your sleeve, but if you don't sound like you've lost everything. So yeah.
I think that's why people struggle with second albums.
Yeah.
Because it could open a treasure chest for us if everybody likes Lost in Echoes.
Yeah. In
some ways, you could take that as a green light to being like, oh, right, well, we can do anything, or we can do anything within that realm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think us doing like a country song would, we wouldn't get away with it. We could add things that maybe are influenced by that.
Yeah.
But, we have had to pick and choose. Like, a lot of us do listen to country music, like especially me, the drummer, and Craig. Like, but it's probably found its way in through other methods of like, the lyrics, or there'll have been something we've heard, but we wouldn't have lent into it as much as the synth wave, where that kind of seems to acceptably sit in the same. Oh, if you like that, you're likely to like, because I'd say a big influence for us is a band called Dayseeker. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard of them, but I don't listen to them. They're
very they're like a juiced up version of us, basically. So they've been and their singer Rory, he's amazingly talented, like clean vocal, kind of like a Matt, like a superhero voice of like, it cuts through the music.
Yeah.
But he can scream as well. So like, they've got really emotional music like us. But then when it goes to the screamy parts, it goes to the screamy parts. Right. But they incorporate a lot of that into their music. The synthy, synth wave kind of stuff, and I know that Benji listens to them a lot, so it's kind of, that was his gateway into, and now he listens to just purely synth wave without the, do you know what I mean? They were kind of the like, I don't know, the taster of going, oh yeah, don't mind stuff like that, and then now he's gone full blown like listens to 80s trunk music.
Well, I mean, when I listen to what you do, I mean, and we're kind of, I know we're wrapping up here, but when I listen to what you do, and please understand what I'm about to say is just how I see it or hear it, right? Because I'm older, when I hear bands like yours, my brain says, okay, there's 30 Seconds to Mars, or there's, you mentioned, not Black Parade. Oh my God, what's the name of the band? Yeah. Or like the pop punk stuff you talked about as influencing Sum 41, Green Day. But I also hear things like The Killers, and I don't know. I think it's because of, you mentioned synthwave, right? My brain tells me there's there's like this sort of Euro dance, heavy metal, screamo. There's so many variables, and it's not like you could pinpoint it. I wouldn't call you guys anything but you. And I will tell you, I've really struggled to say if there's a genre to put you in, where would I put you? Because I do hear bits and pieces of a lot of different things. If I could ask you that, how do you classify yourself?
I was actually thinking about this the other night because when we were getting reaction videos from people, whenever their like channel name would come up, if it was like Super Metal Reacts, like I do feel like we might be disappointing people if we just say, oh, we're just like metalcore, like, because to me metalcore is bands like As I Lay Dying and things like that.
Yeah.
That's metalcore to me. Yeah. I'd probably say that like,
hi,
you're back.
I'm really sorry. My phone was like overheating and it just shut off.
Oh no.
So I'm really sorry about that.
No,
you on your secondary phone?
No.
Oh my God.
Worries.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. We've got about 8 minutes. So I wanted to say this. Chris was just answering a question based on how you would classify himself. And he said, well, we get told this metalcore thing. And then, so go ahead, Chris, where are we at in the metalcore?
Okay. I don't know if Matt's going to agree, but I kind of would say if we could make a genre for ourselves, I'd probably say we're like modern emo music. Like,
yeah.
I feel like there's more of that influence in us than saying that we're a type of metalcore. I think we're the My Chemical Romance kind of like.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I feel like it's the music that people who grew up listening to My Chemical Romance and things like that, angsty. It's got heavy bits, but it's also sing along. Like, yeah. So me personally, I was thinking about it the other day.
Funeral for a Friend as well.
So I'd say we're like new emo, like modern emo.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not a dirty word to me, when someone says, "Oh, it's emo music," like,
oh no, it's great. I love it. I mean, even bands like AFI, which don't sound like you at all, and yet there's again the heavier breakdowns. But yeah, it's the voice, and no matter, and you and I being rhythm players, it's always tough when we're so focused on writing the song and so focused on the arrangements, and the front man gets all the attention. but it is funny, but it is interesting, right, Matt, that when you sing, I'm sure people automatically do that. They say, oh, emo or screamo or anything with the emo sound in it.
I think we get emo and post-hardcore more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I'd agree with modern emo.
Yeah.
I'm going to coin it. That's going on a t-shirt. Modern.
Yeah. Well, that's or you can, is the UK way to say modern? You know what I mean? Modern emo.
That might be like that.
Probably for posh people. Yeah.
Oh man.
Modern emo.
So the new album is coming out in August. What do you, if you can tell, obviously your fan base, and then my listeners, why should they follow you? What trends are you setting? What is coming? Like why are we talking to Caskets? Because it can't just be that I'm a fanboy, or that you are just doing press. There has to be a reason people are falling in love with you. What do you think that is?
I think we're pouring everything into this. I know when people say, "Oh, there's blood, sweat, and tears went into this," there literally has been for us. Like, there's been sleepless nights. There's been all weekend long writing sessions and things that we've signed up to do. Right. But we're willing to go the distance. If this is a thing where I'm never at home, I never see my family. All I see is people connecting with the music, and we're out there living out of a van. Matt's going to just be eating crisps and Monster drinks. Like, if that's
more than likely, mate, yeah.
If that's the destiny of the band, then we're all in. So if somebody likes what they're hearing, we're in for the long run. It's not like we'll write some songs, get a load of plays on Spotify, and we'll cash in and on to the next thing. Like. And for us as well, maybe less so for Matt, but I'm getting on now. Do you know what I mean? I've just turned 30.
Yay! Mate, you're a grown up.
How long?
Mate, I'm only a year behind you.
Still in the twos.
Not true. Yeah.
This is how long is it going to be cool to like a band that we're in? Do you know what I mean? So we kind of need to
I think about that all the time. I'm like. Am I going to be taken seriously doing this at 40? 45? Can I take myself seriously doing this at 55, 60?
Yeah. Actually, you can without me answering that for you.
You can if you get big and good before you get too old. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's ushering Queen off stage going, "No, you passed it, mate. You passed it." You broke the barrier. I think for us, a testament again of we're this is our shot. Do you know what I mean? If it was have been in or gonna be in, this is the one. So we're gonna give it us all. We love the fans. We care about the fans. We care deeply about making music that moves people, ourselves included. Yeah. So if they listen to one song and they like it, there's plenty more in the back catalogue. There's plenty more coming, and there's like you've heard in Lost in Echoes. Mm-hmm. We're not a one-trick pony. Matt's. You can make an assumption that Matt's voice is going to sound great over acoustic music, over heavier stuff, poppier stuff. We've got a lot of growing to do, and like Matt says, we haven't wrote our best stuff yet. We're just getting the wheels turning.
Oh well, I'll let Matt have the last say on one thing here, since he joined us back. Thank you very much. Okay. So this is the end of the thing. Tell us where to find all of your new material. Again, August 13th, Sharp Tone Records. The new Caskets record. It's called Lost Souls, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Where can we get this, Matt? And where can we find all your merch? And you know what I mean? Give us your promo address.
So we've got. Oh my God, that wasn't a good start, was it? So we've got bundles available on our website, casketsband.com. Different variants of the vinyl. Also on sharptone.com, there's also different bundles, and one or two singular variants of the vinyl. So there's some. Chris is better than this at me, to be fair.
If you're US, sharptone.com, you can get it all from there. They've got exclusive merch. They've got a different variant of the vinyl.
There we go. Yeah.
Our site we've got our own exclusive merch. We're doing a deal where all the single artworks are based on tarot cards. So we've got exclusive tarot cards for every song on the album. You can get that from our site. If you're European, you can order from us, or you can order from Empiricon. You can get it in HMV. You can get it from a place called Banquet Records, which we will be doing a live performance when the album drops. So, and if you buy the vinyl from them, you get a ticket for the live show.
Awesome.
That's pretty much it. All the usual places: Instagram, Caskets _band, Caskets on Facebook.
Excellent.
The usual spiel.
Yeah. No, well, look, guys. I mean, I'm sorry because now I actually have to cut it short. So, thank you so much.
No, it's good, man.
I mean, really, this is one of these rare thrills for me. I only have people on the show I really, really genuinely enjoy or want to know a ton about. I can't wait for my audience to find you. I can't wait to see what happens with you guys. And when this whole stupid COVID thing ends, you got to get to the States. I get it. I mean, look, it's not like you need to break anywhere. You're breaking. That's a great thing. And the online stuff is really happening for you. But get to the States. I'm going to be standing up front. I'll probably bring my drumsticks just in case your drummer dies or something like that. But just really, just I love that maybe we've become friends today, and that is a big start. Sure. These things are rare, and talking to really two genuinely great guys, great musicians, and gentlemen. So thank you very much for making the time for my audience on my show.
Shall we make a deal now to after the album comes out? Should we link up again and you can tell us if it lives up to the expectations?
Hell yeah. I promise I will do that. We'll stay in touch and really thank you for making this easy because typically, once you sort of break into the major level big time, it gets really hard to get through the gatekeeper. So thank you for allowing me the privilege of connecting with you guys today. It's really fantastic.
Anytime, man. Honestly, anytime.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having us. Yeah. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for giving us your time.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys take care.
Have a great day,
man. Peace out, dude. Thank you.
Bye.